Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Thursday to everybody. This is an impromptu stream, so I was originally planning on doing this stream like at 7:30 or 8 o'clock tonight, and then I realized that the Sweet 16 NCAA tournament games start at 7:30 Eastern time tonight, so I'm not going to try to compete with that. So I put things together really quickly to try to come on and do 45 minutes to an hour with you guys while you have time and while I have time. You can see from the description of the video and the title. Listen, first of all, it's a call-in show. So anybody wants to call in, argue with me, talk NFL, talk college football, anything you want to talk about, actually. It doesn't really matter. You can call 855-902-9368. Before I get into the chat and before I check the phone lines, I'm just going to go ahead and start my rant. Because it's a funny thing when you get on YouTube. And you put yourself out there. And I spend half of my day in the comments section reading comments from people that are telling me that I'm wrong about things. And I'm here to tell you, folks, I am right about this stuff 99% of the time. And you don't have to take my word for it. Anyone can come out here and say I'm right about everything, or I'm right about almost everything. But I have the video evidence to back it up. I have almost 2 years or a year and a half of video evidence on YouTube to back up my claims. And so you can go back and look and check on if you don't believe me. And it's not just my channel. It's channels that I've been on, like Uncle Lou and Catfish and the Sports Fury and Jet Central and Spencer from Rover Sports. So I'm going to just go through where I was wrong, where I was right. And I did a video about this, where I was wrong, where I was right, after the end of last season. But I'm going to forget last season. I'm going to do as an entirety, okay? And so let's start with where I was wrong, because that's a much shorter list. And again, if anyone wants to call and argue with me about what I was wrong about, what I was right about, the number is 855-902-9368. And by the way, dilly. This beer might be hot, but whatever. I can't do a beer stream without a beer, whether it's hot or not. So where I was wrong. I was really wrong about LSU and Ed Orgeron coming into last season. I thought LSU was going to be a dumpster fire. I really did. I mean, I thought Ed Orgeron was a terrible hire as head coach. I think I predicted that LSU would go 6-6, and all they did was go out there and had some big wins. I mean, they had an embarrassing loss to Alabama. What was it, 28-0? But I mean, really, LSU exceeded my expectations, and I've got to give credit where credit is due. I'm not such a non-believer in Ed Orgeron as I was previously. Now, that was just 1 year. We still have to wait and see over the course of time exactly how great he's going to be. But I'm not an Ed Orgeron hater any longer, and so I think that LSU will be pretty good next year, and so we'll see. So I was wrong about LSU. I was wrong about a lot of the ACC. All right, I was wrong about Miami. I thought Miami, coming off of one of the best seasons they've had since they joined the ACC in the early 2000s, that they were going to have a much better year. And being in such a bad division that they were in, I thought that they were going to come out there and at least win their division and challenge Clemson in the ACC title game, and they did not live up to that. So I was wrong about Miami. I was also wrong about Florida State. Now, I didn't think Florida State was going to be on Clemson's level or even Miami's level for that matter, but I did not see a 5-7 season coming. I did not see them missing a bowl game. Listen, the fact of the matter is that Florida State, regardless of their coaching situation, still had one of the most talented teams in the country based on Jimbo Fisher's recruiting classes that he's had over the course of his tenure there. And I just couldn't imagine any scenario that Florida State was as bad as they were, but they proved me wrong, so I was dead wrong about Florida State, and I will not make that mistake again, I promise you. I was wrong about TCU. TCU was my dark horse to win the Big 12 last year, or at least compete for the Big 12. I don't think I said they were going to win it, but I said that I thought that they would give Oklahoma a run for their money, and TCU just had a terrible year. So I was wrong about TCU. There you go. That's what I was wrong about. LSU, Miami, Florida State, and TCU, and maybe the rest of the ACC. Actually, I wasn't wrong about Louisville. I said that they would have a huge drop-off after losing Lamar Jackson, but I did not see them going from where they went to one of the worst teams in the country. I mean, that was a bigger drop-off than even I could have imagined. NC State as well, I thought they would have had a better season. Virginia Tech, same thing. So the ACC was a complete failure, in my opinion, and in my projections. Now, where I was right. Let's start with college football, since we're already on the college football subject, okay? Now, anybody who remembers, back before last season started, and you looked at the landscape of college football, and you looked at the different conferences individually, you can go back and watch, and I'm not going to name any names, but you all watch the same YouTube guys I watch as far as college football goes, and everybody and their mother was talking about this is Michigan's year. They're going to beat Ohio State. They're going to win the Big Ten. They're going to go to the playoffs. And it wasn't just YouTubers. It was also ESPN and mainstream media. And I was the outlier saying no. I said no. I said Michigan, they will lose to Notre Dame week 1, which they did. I said they will lose a game against a bad team that they should not lose to, which they did in Purdue. I said they will lose to Ohio State again, which they did. And I said they will not win the Big Ten, and then they will lose their bowl game to whoever they play in the bowls, which they did. I mean, I couldn't have been any more right about Michigan than I possibly was. So thank you for that. Michigan, thank you as well for making me look like a genius, which we all know that I am. I also said that Clemson and Alabama would be back in the national championship. Now, I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I mean, listen, they've been the two best teams for 4 or 5 years now. So I don't know if that's like a big hot take or anything, but I still believe that Clemson and Alabama are just on another level. Now, Alabama was very close to, losing the SEC title game, which I still think they would have gotten the playoffs even if they had lost to Georgia. But so I was right about Alabama and Clemson being back in the national championship. Kelly Bryant, another thing I was extremely right about. I mean, I nailed this. I said, coming into the season, I think I was on Uncle Lou's show in the offseason last year, and he was asking me about this Kelly Bryant and Trevor Lawrence situation and how it would all play out. And I said, I believe that Kelly Bryant will be named the starter week 1, and after about 4 weeks, Trevor Lawrence will take over the starting position. And I nailed it. After 4 weeks, Trevor Lawrence came in, took it over. Now, I did not see Kelly Bryant transferring because that was before all of the news came out about the new transfer rule with the 4 games and all that. And who could see that coming? I did figure after Lawrence was named the starter that Bryant would transfer, but not in the preseason. So I nailed that. South Carolina. Now, this might be the one that I'm most proud of, not only because I hate South Carolina, but for the simple fact that everybody and their mother was projecting South Carolina last year to be not only very good, but have the best year that Will Muschamp has had since he's been there and possibly challenge Georgia for the East. And they were projecting, 10 and 11 wins for South Carolina. And I was in the background screaming, hold on, hello. Have you not been paying attention to Will Muschamp's record as a head coach anywhere he's ever been, which is only 2 places, Florida and South Carolina? He has one good year in his first couple years, and then his 3rd year he drops off and massively disappoints. And I called it exactly. I said my projection for South Carolina is that they'll win 6 or 7 games. They went 7-5, won 7 games. Thank you. You're welcome. I was right about that. Nailed it. I also said that Georgia would run away with the East again, which they did. I also said that Ohio State would run away with the Big Ten. They didn't run away with it, but they won it. I believe I also said that Texas was going to challenge Oklahoma for the Big 12 title. And obviously Texas did not win the Big 12 title, but they did challenge them. They beat them in the regular season, and then they faced them in the Big 12 championship game and lost. But there you have it, folks. All right, now let's move on to the NFL. So before the season even started last year, I think I was on Spencer's channel. And again, if you don't believe me, you guys can go. This is all on record. You can go check it out. It's on YouTube. He had me on as a guest, projecting teams throughout the NFL and where I thought they would fall come the end of the season. And I was on record as saying that I think the Patriots are the favorite to win the Super Bowl, despite the fact that Tom Brady is old and despite the fact that they lost a bunch of players. And that I also thought that the Rams were going to be the team to beat in the NFC. And he called me crazy. He told me that the Rams were just loading up on good players, but they didn't have any character and all this and that. And turns out the Patriots and the Rams were the ones that met in the Super Bowl. And so I pretty much nailed that before the season even started. Lamar Jackson. Everybody and their mother was out there saying that Lamar Jackson was going to be a bust. They took him at the end of the first round, and why would anybody pick Lamar Jackson as a quarterback in the first round? Now, I'm not a huge believer in Lamar Jackson as far as a long-term NFL player, but I did say on the same show where I said the Patriots and the Rams are going to be the two best teams in the NFL, that Lamar Jackson would not only start for the Ravens at some point, but that he would take over Joe Flacco's position at some point mid-season to become the starter for the Ravens, and that he would play well. And that's exactly what happened. Lamar Jackson took over, I think, around week, somebody can let me know. I think it was 7 or 8. And he had a winning record as a starter with the Ravens, so I nailed that. Baker Mayfield. This might be one of my favorite ones. I love the quarterback ones. A lot of the talk came out about Baker Mayfield being a good college quarterback, but he didn't have the character. His game didn't translate to the NFL. The Browns were a dumpster fire. How could he possibly lead them to win any games, let alone more than 2 or 3 when they hadn't won more than 1 in 2 years straight? And I said that not only would Baker Mayfield be the best quarterback in the draft, that he would lead the Browns to a 6-6 or 7-5 season and make a push for the playoffs. And again, that was exactly what happened. Baker Mayfield, if it weren't for Hugh Jackson being such an idiot in the first, 4 games of the season and not starting Baker, they probably would have made the playoffs. Because as soon as he came in, he turned the franchise around in a hurry. They ended up winning, I think it was like 7 games, and barely missing the playoffs. And I think Baker Mayfield will continue to be a force to be reckoned with in the NFL. And I nailed Baker Mayfield. And all you Baker Mayfield haters out there, I told you so. Next on the list, Saquon Barkley. I called it. I said that the Giants will take Saquon Barkley. And not only will they take him with their first draft pick, but he will be most likely the best rookie that's not a quarterback in the NFL. Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he win the Rookie of the Year? Wasn't he the best rookie of all last year? Is he not now, after they traded Odell Beckham Jr. away, most likely the best player on the Giants? Yes, he is. Next on the list, I also said that Houston, in a time, if you remember back before this last season, that Jacksonville Jaguars went to the AFC title game, almost went to the Super Bowl, had a record year for their defense, one of the best defenses that we've seen in the past 10 years or so. And everybody was either picking Tennessee or Jacksonville or maybe the Colts to win that division. I said Deshaun Watson and Houston would win the AFC South. And, of course, they did, despite the fact that they had some major injuries to their wide receiver core and a couple of other key positions as well. And their offensive line's terrible. Anyway, Houston did win the division just to go on to lose in the first round to the Colts. But I was right that they would win the division when nobody else, other than me, that I know of, was picking them to do so. Josh Rosen. I love the quarterbacks. I said that Josh Rosen, for the Cardinals to trade up to get Josh Rosen was a huge mistake. And out of all those quarterbacks that came out of that draft last year, whether it was Rosen or Allen or Mayfield or Jackson, that he would be the least successful. And I continue to believe that he'll be the least successful going forward, with the exception of maybe Lamar Jackson, because I do think that Rosen is probably a better fit in the NFL system than Jackson is. But Rosen was a complete flop last year. They traded up to get the guy. Now they're talking about trading him away for a second-round pick a year after they traded up to get him. So I told you Rosen was going to be no good, and at least thus far, he was no good. I also said that Christian McCaffrey would be one of the leading running backs, biggest playmakers, and would probably have a record year in the Carolina Panthers offense, which he did, even exceeded my expectations with all of the above. And in the fantasy draft that I had, or I was a part of, with the content creators for the Sports Fury channel, I took Christian McCaffrey with my first overall pick in the fantasy draft, and everybody was laughing at me, telling me I was just being a homer. I was just a Panthers fan. McCaffrey was not worth taking in the first round, and all the guy did was go out there and be one of the leading fantasy players of the entire season. Thank you. Now, let me get into the chat here. And I would love for people to call in. Let me check in the phone line. And after I do some shout-outs here, I'll check the phone lines and see if anybody's calling, and they can tell me how I'm not right about stuff. I always love that. Ryan Stanfield in the house. Hound Dog, good afternoon to you, sir. Kenny Erickson. Dennis Wilson in the house. Border Bob, thank you for checking in, sir. The Crowing Cock Vodka Drinker is in the house. The QC says, what's up, Shades? What's up? I don't have my shades on. You know what? I dropped my glasses today and broke them. So that's why I'm not wearing my shades. But anyway. Alan B in the house. How you doing, sir? Thank you for stopping in. Butcher's Block and Patriots Talk. What's up, Pigskin Pete? First time in your stream. Well, welcome, sir. Stick around. I promise it will be at least 3 or 4 days before I completely piss you off. And but I can't promise anything. George, all I can guess is Dennis Wilson must be an algorithm just sent him to mess up people's shows. Creeper 198 says Clemson, let's go. Yes, sir. Panthers Rule 95. Hey, Pigskin Pete. Hey, Panthers Rule. How you doing, man? Thanks for stopping in. Richard Neal, always good to see you in here, sir. Thank you for stopping by. I'm sure if you're here, you're amazing and fantastic, which I already know that you are. Billy Dawson in the house. College Football Maniac, one of the very few Gamecock fans that I actually like. All right, let me check and see if anyone's on the phone line. If not, I'll get back to the comments. All right, I got somebody on the line. I apologize, whoever was on the line that's waiting for my rant to end. Good afternoon. You're on with Pete.
What's up, Pete? It's DeAndre. How you doing, man?
Hey, DeAndre Crawford, one of my favorite Clemson fans. How you doing, sir?
Man, I was telling I was on Mark Rogers talking to Bobby Dorkin. I hate that I miss your shows. The prison I work at, on Thursdays, I got one late night, so I'm glad I'm off today because it's my birthday. So I'm glad I got a chance to catch your show today.
Well, I'm glad you did too, man. And I actually did. I watched that Mark Rogers show this morning when I was on my way to work in the car. Bobby Durkins is hilarious. I mean,
right.
I almost felt sorry for Mark. I don't know if Mark knew what to do with all that.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of Clemson fans who don't follow, and I'm sure you heard me say, you and Bobby, I don't know too many people. Y'all might be the only two that rep Clemson on, like, have a YouTube channel. Like Alabama, you can find thousands of people talking about Alabama football, or you can find thousands of people talking about Miami football, or a couple other schools, Notre Dame, Michigan. They have YouTubers everywhere, independent, not just like you and Bobby. And I was telling people, give Bobby Dorkins a chance. He's very good at what he does. And people don't get a sense of humor, but he's funny. And there was a couple Clemson fans that come on YouTube. I'm like, nah, man, y'all got to get a dude a chance. He's great. And y'all rep Clemson all day long. And I love your show. I'm a Steelers fan. I know you root for the Panthers. I have nothing against the Panthers, but I grew up being a Steelers fan because there was no Panthers. I'm 42 years old. I'm older than the Panthers. So there was no Panthers to root for coming up. So that's when people say, well, you're from North Carolina. Yeah, but there was no Panthers. I mean, like I always loved Clemson football since 1981 when my uncle played on the championship team. I love East Carolina, but I love East Carolina football, but I love Clemson more because that was the first one I was introduced to. So I stay loyal to the teams that I always liked, you know. People say, well, who likes college basketball? I'm like, I just like watching the game because there ain't nobody like East Carolina and Clemson basketball stuff. So they don't need to like them. So.
Well, listen, hey, man, first of all, I appreciate the kind words about me and Bobby Durkins. I can't speak for him, but I can speak for me. I appreciate the kind words. You're right. There's not a lot of Clemson YouTubers out there. And, you know, we both have eccentric type of shows. I mean, I'm not near as eccentric as he is because he's on a whole nother level of eccentric than I am. But I think that the feedback I get from a lot of Clemson fans is that they don't like me because they think I'm too cocky or I'm too brash. I don't think they just don't get what I do. I mean, and that's fine. I'm not for everybody. And the same thing goes for Bobby Durkins. They feel like he represents the stereotype about Clemson people is that they're a bunch of rednecks. But again, like you said, man, you got to have a sense of humor. Clearly, the guy is not. That's not who he is. It's a comedy show. Sprinkled in with some facts. And so Bobby's a really good dude, one of my favorite YouTubers, and a good friend too. I speak with him almost on a weekly basis, and he's just a good guy. But as far as the Steelers go, you said you're a Steelers fan, and that when you were growing up, there was no Panthers. When I was growing up, there was no Panthers. So I'm only a couple years younger than you are. So 95 is when the Panthers came into the league. And I'm sure you remember this, is the first 2 years that the Panthers played, they played in Death Valley, Clemson, at the stadium.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I was super excited. I was 15 years old when the Panthers came into the league. I was so excited that the Carolinas had an NFL team because, in South Carolina, we don't have any professional sports. So, I was all in as far as being a Panthers fan from day one. And, anyway, it is what it is. But you're right. Clemson basketball does suck, and we need to get rid of Brownell in a hurry.
Right. I see your show. I don't know who you was talking to, Alonzo or somebody, about the ACC. I don't know if you were talking to Alonzo or you were talking to somebody else about how bad the ACC was. I want to make a clarity, and I take up for the ACC a lot. I don't think there are great complete teams like you see with Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. Oklahoma's not a complete team to me because their defense is terrible. But you see three good offense and good defense with those three teams. You don't see a lot of complete teams. I get tired of people saying ACC sucks. Well, let's hear me out for a second. I know you agree with a lot of the guys. But Duke beat Northwestern, who was the second best team in Ohio State the way they finished.
Yeah.
They played Ohio State for the championship game. I think Ohio State beat them by 12 points or something like that.
Yeah.
And my point is, I don't think there's a lot of good complete teams. I don't think that Big Ten West, the Pac-10 as a whole, and when you get past the Big Ten, I really didn't see much of Texas play this year. But outside of Oklahoma, I really don't think there were any good teams in the Big Ten. I think college football as a whole, you don't have a lot of great teams. Like people always talk about the SEC East. My problem with SEC East, Mississippi State and LSU, they were the second best teams outside of Alabama. They couldn't even score a touchdown or a field goal against neither one of those against Alabama.
Yeah.
And they had great defenses, but they didn't have no offense. It's like, what makes them so great? I'm not saying that Syracuse will beat LSU. I'm sure Syracuse could beat Mississippi State in the game. And they played even Duke. Virginia's beat South Carolina, 28-0. And people say, well, South Carolina didn't play everybody, didn't play their whole team. I say, yeah, I know. I understand that. But at the same time, the game is what it is. You play that game that day. You can't worry about who else is there. Those people on scholarship, too. And it just irks my nerves. I know Miami, Virginia Tech, Florida State, traditional powers or traditional good teams have been down. But a lot of that because the quarterback play is terrible. Maybe coaching is terrible. I mean, he went and got Florida State when he got Kim Brown. I don't see Florida State being down. Everybody said, well, James Blackman's been a great quarterback. I said, but he started the whole year as a freshman with one game. So he got to have some type of talent. I mean, we jump on the ACC and say they're a one-team team, but I look around all the college football outside the three teams that I named, none of them are great teams. That's what irks my nerves when I hear people talk. SEC better than the ACC. Who outside of Bama?
Well, listen, man,
and Bama's not that great outside of Clemson with them.
You're preaching to the choir, brother, because I've been saying this. I mean, I think out of all the YouTube videos I've ever done since I've been on YouTube, that's probably the most constant thing I've been talking about is this conference thing. And I pretty much gave up on it because I don't get nowhere with it. People don't want to look at the numbers. All right, so I agree with you. Listen, is the ACC better than the SEC? No, they're not. But if you're looking at all these conferences, like you said, there's literally one team that dominates almost every conference for the past, since the turn of the last decade, since 2010. It's been Ohio State in the Big Ten. It's been Clemson in the ACC. It's been Oklahoma in the Big 12. For the past 5 or 6 years, it's been Washington in the Pac-12. And that's it, man. I mean, I don't know what people are watching. There's only 2 conferences since the playoff era has started that have somebody in the playoffs every single year, and that's the ACC and the SEC. And again, I'm going to say this again. I know I'm going to get hate for it. I really don't care. Over the past 6 years, somebody corrected me, by the way. All right, so I will revise my record based on the 2018 season, okay? So since 2013, the ACC versus the SEC, the SEC now leads because of last year, I think by 1 game. It's like 31-30. So basically 500 over 61 games. And I'm just going to look, man, if the SEC was so much more dominant than every other conference, then they would not be having a 500 record against what most people consider to be a bad conference in the ACC over a 60-game period. And they would not be losing, their best team would not be losing national titles 2 out of the last 3 years to the best team in the ACC. The ACC right now is down. That's a fact. But again, like you said, most of these conferences are very top heavy. If you put the middle of the conferences and the lower tier teams in these conferences against each other from week to week, you're going to get different results. And you just said Northwestern got blown out by Purdue last year. Northwestern got blown out by Duke in Northwestern last year by like 3 touchdowns, and Northwestern represented the Big Ten West in the Big Ten title game. So, look, man, I think that there's a very razor-thin line between every conference right now, except for the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is pretty bad, but the rest of the other four, the rest of the other four Power 5 conferences there's not much of a separation, especially at the top. So.
And I'll let you go after this. I'm sure you got more callers. I just get tired of hearing it because I'm like, ACC, worst conference outside of Clemson. ACC, well, we in the 80s, if you look at it, the best teams were schools that were, what they call independents. Notre Dame, Miami, Penn State, blah, blah, blah. 90s, I can't really tell you who dominated the 90s. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the 2000s, when the SEC took off, you started seeing the shift in population. You started seeing people, and I hate to bring race into this, more African Americans are accepting that playing at home in the South compared to what went on in the 80s and 70s when Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State, those schools, Michigan State, were dominant. Now they started staying at home to Alabama, LSU. People don't remember this. LSU was terrible in the 80s and 70s. I mean, they weren't terrible. They were like 8-3, 8-4. They're not always being what they are now compared to what they were. And you saw Florida State, Miami, and Florida take off in the 90s and stuff like that. They were getting people out of people to stay at home, and then there was also getting talent out of LSU. Look at Ward Dunn and people, Ben Ward, they were from LSU. Now LSU, they said we came in, and we're going to get these guys to stay at home and play there. It just irks my nerves that people don't follow population trends and have to look at why these teams are going to be good. My kids are rushing me in to get me in for my birthday. But I just look at it, Bobby, and it just irks my nerves when I hear people say, ACC down. I mean, ACC got so much potential to be better than what they are in the next couple of years. I mean, I still think Clemson's going to dominate with Trevor Lawrence and the type of talent that they're bringing in. They're still going to be the dominant team, but it ain't going to be such a big gap anymore. I think Florida State's going to get better because they still got Cam Akers there, who was the number one running back. They've got a lot of talent. They've had all offensive line problems for the last couple of years.
Well, they can't
they're going to get better. I think Miami's going to be better.
Yeah, they can't get much worse.
Virginia Tech, that's going to get better. Huh?
I mean, all those teams got to get better. But I'm glad you mentioned real quick. I know you got to go. By the way, you said it's your birthday?
Yeah.
All right, well, happy birthday, man.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, but before you get off, I'm glad you mentioned Notre Dame because this is something that I forget about. But I have a definite feeling about this because, and this is why I hate Notre Dame being independent in football, but being in the ACC and every other sport. Because when Notre Dame's good, like they were last year, they went 12-0, made the playoffs. The ACC gets no credit for that. But they are an ACC team. Let's not kid ourselves, everybody. They play 5 ACC games a year. They're an ACC team, folks. Everybody just get over it. I don't care if you're a Notre Dame fan. Just go ahead and get over it, too. You're an ACC team. You might not wear it on your jersey. You might not paint it on the field, but you're an ACC team. And if you go by that logic, then the ACC last year had 2 teams in the playoffs, number one, and number two, everyone was saying that Notre Dame had a weak schedule. They did not belong in the playoffs, right? Even though they were 12-0 because they didn't play a conference championship game. Meanwhile, Notre Dame lost by the same amount to Clemson that Alabama did. So Notre Dame was not as bad as everyone thinks they were. And again, they're an ACC team. So listen, that's a whole other video.
Lost worse. Alabama lost 28. Alabama and Notre Dame lost by 24. Go figure.
Yeah. Anyway.
So I totally agree with you, Pete.
Yeah, I know. There's me and you are few and far between in defending the ACC, and the real truth is I call myself an ACC homer, but I'm not a fan of any other ACC team other than Clemson. So people are always like, "Hey, man, why do you care what Florida State and Miami and that's not something that's I haven't been that way."
Everybody tries to say Clemson's schedule is weak.
Yeah,
that's why we defend them because everybody keeps saying their schedule is weak. And that's why we come back and say, hey, wait a minute, the ACC not bad. Who did Alabama play last year?
Well,
outside of LSU, say,
yeah.
Who did Alabama play? What complete team did they play?
But I haven't been that way my whole life. I haven't always been, quote, unquote, an ACC homer. It didn't start until people started attacking the ACC. And so my label as being an ACC homer really came out of defending the ACC, not necessarily being on the, jumping on the bandwagon as far as saying they're great. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I just defend it because they talk about Clemson's schedule. That's what I hate. I said, you tell me another team that, Clemson's I'm not going to say they're short the ACC, but I don't think outside of the last 5 years, who the only SEC team to beat Clemson? Alabama? I don't think South Carolina's beat them. And they played Texas, A&M, and who's that school? Auburn twice. I listen to Alabama talk shows, man. They were like, Clemson is Auburn with Lake. I'm like, yeah, but we don't whoop y'all ass there. Auburn used to beat Alabama by some lucky means and stuff like that. That's how they used to beat them. But we done spanked their ass on the field. And I don't dislike Alabama like some people do. I got a lot of respect for that program. Now, I hate Michigan and Notre Dame just like you do. I just can't stand those two programs. They haven't did anything in modern times. I mean, they have championships in the 90s and 80s, but after that, what have they done?
And I understand that there's only like 4 or 5 teams in all of the Power 5 that can actually go out there and say we have a tough schedule. Like LSU, they do have a tough schedule. I mean, Auburn, they do have a tough schedule. Like, nobody can argue with that, and nobody can take that away from them. But there's 100 and forget the entire Division I. But how many teams are in the Power 5? 60-something, right? It's like 63. So out of 60-something, so out of 60-something teams in the Power 5, maybe 4 or 5 of them can actually go out there and say that year to year we have a very tough schedule. The other 50-something are all in the same boat. They all play 1 or 2 really tough games a year, and the rest of them are not considered to be against great teams. That's just the way college football is. When you have that many teams, there's not 50 great teams in the country. There's only 7 or 8. So it is what it is. So people that, unless you're LSU or unless you're Auburn or maybe Tennessee or Ohio State or somebody like that, you can't bitch about having a tough schedule every year. You just can't. You can't do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Pete. And I'll get up with you later, man.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in.
All right, bye.
There you have it, folks. Dondre Crawford getting me all worked up here on a Thursday night talking about the ACC and the SEC. Happy birthday to Dondre Crawford. Anybody else that wants to call in, the number is 855-902-9368. The tournament starts tonight. Well, not the tournament, but the Sweet 16. Who do you guys got? Tennessee plays tonight. Florida State plays tonight. And I think Virginia Tech plays tonight. I don't have it in front of me. Anyway. I see somebody in the chat, Vodka Drinker, asking what's the update on Amari Rogers. So he tore his ACL. That's confirmed now. And there's conflicting reports of whether or not he will be back by the end of the season or he'll miss the entire season. The optimists are saying he'll be back, as far as the important games at the end of the year. I'm not so optimistic because, listen, there's no benefit to coming back off of a serious injury like that too early. I think he'd be much better off sitting out the entire year and then coming back the next year to make sure he's fully healthy. The last thing anybody wants to see is him come back, a month or two too early and re-injure that. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that I'm assuming he's going to be out for the entire year, but who knows? Clemson will be the only 12-0 team this year. MCD Sports 4. I don't know about that. I would, as much of a Clemson fan and homer as I am, I would never ever predict a 12-0 record ever. So I mean that it just doesn't happen very often. I don't care who you are. So I would predict that Clemson will be 11-1. Where they lose that game, who knows? More than likely, it'll be either against A&M or against Syracuse. But listen, man, it's football. It's sports. They could blow out A&M. They could go blow out Syracuse and then lose by a point to NC State, for all we know. But I never predict a 12-0 season. I think that's awfully arrogant for anybody to do that. Alan V., remember you and Pigskin Pete was beefing? Oh, yeah. I would hardly call that beef. Alan V. is a good guy, though. DeGoat Watson, I hope Clemson versus Texas A&M and Texas versus LSU on different times in the week. I would imagine that they would be. The TV scheduling, as far as that goes, is usually pretty smart, and I doubt they would put those two on at the same time. Anybody wants to call in before I get off? I got about maybe 15 more minutes here. The number is 855-902-9368. And let me check and see if anybody is on the line. And no, nobody is on the line. What's up, Cody Lackney? How you doing, sir? Everybody go check out Cody with this C3 podcast, the Carolina Cat Chronicles. They do a great job over there on YouTube, and I also know Cody also has some other stuff going on outside of the Cat Chronicles YouTube channel where he covers the Panthers. And out of all the people that I speak to, if I'm going to trust anybody's opinion on anything Carolina Panthers, he is at the top of the list because he follows them 24/7, 365. I should hook up the laptop to a charger. Well, this might be shocking, but I have thought of that. That's not the answer. Dennis, y'all need to focus on Gators, not Clemson right now. Yes. Dennis, listen to Vodka Drinker, sir. You definitely need to focus on the Gators week 0 before you even think about beating Clemson. As a matter of fact, forget not just the Gators. You need to focus on the entire ACC schedule you have as well as the Gators before you even think about Clemson, sir. But I'll be rooting for you week 0. DeGoat Watson says he heard the Panthers are drafting Farrell. Well, I have seen several mocks where he's going to the Panthers, but one can only hope. We do need a pass rush. We do need to draft a defensive end. And if Farrell is there at that time, I will definitely be lobbying for that. But I'm not going to get my hopes up. Anybody who wants to call in, the number is 855-902-9368. Oh, by the way, the Super Chat contest for the month of March. Hold on, where is it? If I can find it. Consists of Melissa Stallings, Leon Hurricanes, Mark Dudley, Michael Sachs, Cole, the Missouri fan, Catfish, Tiger Nation, and Hound Dog. Thank you to all of you guys, and that drawing will be done the first week of April, which is next week. So next week, I'll be doing drawing live on air. Now, next weekend, I will be in Clemson for the spring game, so look for a lot of material to come out of there. If I stay out of jail, hopefully, everyone pray for me. I am saving bail money, but I will be up there with some other Clemson fans and other members of the Pixie and Pete YouTube channel, and I'm really looking forward to that, as well as Bobby Durkins. And so, listen, it's going to be great. I can promise you that. You'll see. Last time I went to a game with them, I didn't focus on, getting content for YouTube. We were just going to a game like a bunch of people going to a game. This time I'm going, since it's not a real game, it's just a spring game, I'm going to put an extra emphasis on getting content for the YouTube channel. So, again, keep an eye out for that. And if you don't see anything uploaded on YouTube next weekend, it probably means I'm in jail. Pete, would you be upset if the Panthers drafted Brian Burns over Farrell? No, I wouldn't. I would not. I'm not just looking for them to draft a Clemson player. What I'm looking for them to do is shore up the defensive line and the offensive line. I think a lot like you are. And so however they go about doing that, there's a number of players on both sides of the line that they could do that with. So no, the answer to your question is no. I would not be upset about that. Chad Reuter or whatever has mocked Jonah Williams to the Panthers. Yeah, listen, if you watch 10 different mock drafts, you're going to get 10 different people saying 10 different things about where they're going. That's just the way that mock drafts work. Yeah, Clemson spring game is going to have a ton of 5-star recruits in town. So DJ, what's his name? Aguglier. I don't know how to pronounce the guy's last name. But the number one quarterback recruit for the 2020 class, the guy out of California. And Cody, you'll appreciate this. DJ Aguglier, I'm just going to say that's how you pronounce it because whatever. He's not watching anyway. He is 6'5", 245. Now, 6'5", 245, for anybody who's paying attention, is basically what Cam Newton is right now. And this guy's in high school. So, I mean, conventional wisdom would say that he's probably going to grow an inch or two more and gain another 10 or 15 pounds in college, which would put him at 6'6" or 6'7" and around 255 or 260 by the time he enters the NFL draft. And the guy has a world-class arm wherever he goes. And I know that the front runners right now are Oregon because he's on the West Coast, Alabama, and Clemson, and there may be another team in there that I don't know of. But those, as far as I know, those are the three front runners of where he's going to go. Anybody who gets this guy will automatically be put into the playoff picture because those are, first of all, those are three really good teams in the respective conferences. There's Oregon, Alabama, or Clemson, and the guy is off the charts good. So he will be at the spring game. DJ will. And maybe I'll get to talk to him. I'll do some recruiting. Actually, you know what? I should stay away from him because I'll probably convince him not to come to Clemson. I'm not a good recruiter. A point on mock drafted in a gambling structure would be interesting. Yeah, you know what, Vodka Drinker, that's true. I would never gamble on that though. That's listen, you got people like Mel Kiper, and what's the other guy's name? Who cares? These guys spend their entire career year-round, even outside of football season and during football season, is based on these mock drafts, and they're wrong more than they're right. So I would never gamble on that. Yeah, Todd McShay, thank you. Two guys that I really could care less about listening to, Mel Kiper and Todd McShay. I have just as much of a chance of being right as they do, and I'm just some dude with a YouTube channel in his house making videos. By the way, not to self-promote, but I'm the Panthers analyst for drafttech.com. Everyone go check that out, drafttech.com, especially if you're a Panthers fan, but maybe if you're just a Panthers fan in general. He says he has the Panthers selecting Cody Ford at 16. Would be an instant starter for the Panthers on the O-line. Yes, he would, and that would actually be a good pickup. Let me check the phone lines here one more time. By the way, thank you to Dondre Crawford for calling in. Good call there by a Clemson fan. Always enjoy when he calls. Let me go back up here. Let me see something. USC, because his grandmother that passed away wanted him to go there because that was her favorite team. I guess you're talking about DJ. You know what? As much as I would love for him to come to Clemson, and there's still a very good chance that he will, I would not be shocked to see him go to Oregon over Clemson and Alabama. And for one simple reason, because he's on the West Coast. And if you have a bunch of family members that want to come see you play, then, you know, traveling over 2,000 miles to go to school is a lot to ask for a college student, number one, especially for the number one quarterback recruit in the country. And also, let's be real here, as much as I would love to have him, it doesn't matter if he goes to Clemson, Oregon, Alabama, Texas, Miami, Ohio State, Michigan, Nebraska. It just does not matter. As far as the NFL is concerned, the guy is going to be a top prospect in the NFL. So I don't know if it really matters. You know, it's great to go to a team that is projected to go to the national championships and the playoffs for the exposure, But it doesn't always mean that that's just going to guarantee you the first overall pick in the draft when you do come out. He has as good a chance anywhere he goes to be the top quarterback taken, whether he goes to Clemson or Oregon or Alabama or wherever. So, it is what it is. All right, man. Thanks, Vodka Drinker, for stopping in. And, yeah, I'll go check out BVD when I get off here, and I'm going to start watching the what time is it? It's 7:30. All right, so, guys, what I'm going to do is these basketball games are starting. So I'm going to go ahead and get off because I'm actually going to watch some basketball, too, and I'm going to go eat first. I'm starving. But, anyway, thank you, everybody, for stopping in. Thank you to all the Patreon members. You all know who you are. Billy Dawson, Tiger Nation, Border Bob, DeGoat Watson, and I'm probably missing one. I'm sure I am. Anyway, thank you to all the Super Chat people in this last month. Thanks to all the Patreon members. Thanks to all the people that stopped in on the chat. Thanks for all the people that call. You're all amazing. You're all fantastic. I could not do these live shows without you. And that's it. As far as tonight, though, go Tennessee. I'm rooting for Tennessee in the tournament. I really am. Because they have the most seniors out of all the basketball teams, and I like that. In this current format where everyone's one and dones on these elite teams, I like the fact that Tennessee has a veteran team. These guys have fought for 3 and 4 years on that team, and so I think they deserve some credit for that. So I'll be rooting for Tennessee in the tournament. I also will be rooting for Virginia and Virginia Tech and Florida State. Duke and North Carolina, not so much because they're the evil empire in college basketball. But I do like to see Virginia Tech, Florida State, and maybe Virginia do well. That's it. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you for stopping in again. Pigskin Pete, checking out. If I can turn this off, which I probably can't because I have the IQ of a cockroach.